Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining me for today's sneak peek of our labor variations and interventions class. This class is offered monthly through Tree of Life Doula Services. I'm very passionate about this class because as a doula and childbirth educator, I see again and again families faced with unexpected decisions inside of the delivery room. And so it sort of led me to create this class to prepare you ahead of time if your birth plan goes a little bit awry or not exactly as you planned it, so you can research all of these topics and prepare a plan on how you feel about certain interventions during labor and childbirth. So we're going to jump in. I'm just going to go over about 3 slides to give you a little sneak peek of what is offered in this class that typically runs about an hour and a half. So we are going to jump in here to slide 8. Just get in here. All right. So one of the most common interventions we encounter are inductions, and these happen for various reasons. Sometimes there's a medical necessity, sometimes there isn't. But one important thing to note before you agree to an induction is your bishop score. And we're going to go over the signs and steps to create your bishop score so you can have that discussion with your provider as to the success rate or the likely success of your induction. So it's important to note that a large or even very large baby is not a reason to induce, according to the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology. And that leads us into our discussion about our bishop score. So a bishop score is a simplistic method that can help full-term pregnant people determine if they are in a favorable position for induction, or if your induction is likely to be successful and lead to a vaginal birth. This score is determined by a simple vaginal exam, which most of us will have already at the end of our pregnancy. And there are 5 components and a total of 13 points. The more points you have, the more likely it is that your induction will be successful. So if we look at this chart down here on the right-hand side, we'll see how it is scored and what will give you points. So during a cervical exam, your obstetrician, midwife, or practitioner will be checking the position of your cervix, the consistency of your cervix, how effaced you are, the dilation of your cervix, and the station of the baby. So we know that our cervix plays a big role in how easily our labor progresses, and we know that we need to reach 10 centimeters in dilation and 100% effacement in order for baby to fit through the vaginal opening. This station refers to where the baby is in the pelvis, how low they are, and if they are engaged. Babies typically hang out around -2 station before labor, not really engaged in the pelvis. Once they are at the ischial spines or the mid-pelvis, they are at station 0, and then it goes +1, +2, +3, all the way through delivery. So if you go in for, say, a cervical check around 38 weeks, 39 weeks, you should be able to get your bishop score by asking your provider these questions. They will often tell you how dilated you are and how effaced you are, but they don't often just mention the position, consistency, or station of baby. So you will need to ask them those things in order to know your bishop score points. So if you go in for your cervical exam and the position of your cervix is anterior, meaning that it's super low, easy to feel, and towards the front of the vagina, and it feels super soft, like the consistency of your lips, and say you're probably about 30 to 50% effaced, and 1 to 2 centimeters dilated in babies hanging out at a -2 station. This would give you 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 points on the bishop score. Over here, you can see some modifiers, so feel free to use those as what applies to you for your pregnancy. So if we look over here to the side, a score of 8 or more points means that your induction is likely to be successful. 6 or 7 could go either way, and 5 or less is unlikely to result in a successful induction, which means that you may be sent home if your induction was not medically necessary or potentially lead to a cesarean section if your waters have been broken and you've really gone past the point of stopping the induction. So with a score of 7, based on those criteria of a hypothetical visit that I laid out, it could go either way. More than likely you will have a successful induction, but you're still kind of in that gray area. So if you go in at, say, 40 weeks and you're a first-time mom and your cervix is still very posterior, firm, you're not so much effaced, not really dilated, and baby's still pretty high up in the pelvis, your score is going to be very low. You may be done being pregnant and feeling really frustrated that your body is not kicking into labor, and your provider may suggest an induction. This is a good tool to determine if you want to go ahead with that induction, knowing that you're not really in a favorable position to have a successful induction. If you're really trying to avoid a cesarean section or a lot of interventions, it may be worth a discussion about waiting another week or two to see how your cervix progresses before agreeing to an induction. One of the most common methods of induction is Pitocin. Pitocin is given through an IV and acts on the muscles of the uterus, forcing them to contract. Because of the risk associated with Pitocin, you will need to be continuously monitored while you are using Pitocin. There are some risks involved, such as fetal distress or uterine rupture. Those are very uncommon, uterine rupture in particular. Low blood pressure, some excessive postpartum bleeding if your cervix has had to work really hard for a long period of time, and just a slight increase in episiotomy and vacuum assist may be needed, and then maternal nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. I don't personally see these a lot with my clients who are having an induction. The most common sort of side effects that I see are very intense, painful contractions, and occasionally that nausea and vomiting. Fetal distress is probably another common one that I see, though it is mitigated pretty easily with the use of IV fluids, oxygen, and positioning. Another common method of induction is Foley balloon. This is a lesser known method of induction that works to manually dilate the cervix by inserting a small rubber tube through the cervix and inflating it. This is the most natural, friendly method of induction, and it's a great cervical ripener to help you get along in the Bishop score before any chemical interventions are used, such as the Pitocin. So I'm going to go ahead and end that sneak peek here. That was just 3 or 4 slides of a much, much bigger presentation. We go over all of the common pregnancy illnesses such as gestational diabetes, group B strep, chorioamnionitis. We go through the methods of induction and also common variations or complications that may arise during labor, such as fetal distress, or failure to progress, and also the common interventions used to treat those things. So like I said, I am super passionate about this class. I can't wait to share it with more families. I feel like more knowledge is less fear. And even though this isn't your super feel-good childbirth class of all sunshine and rainbows, it is amazing to go into your birth feeling confident that even though hopefully most of these things will never arise for most of you, but you do have the tools to make decisions and address these things if they come up in labor. I will let you go with that. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope to see you in class. Thank you. Bye.